Daniel was a 27-year-old man who lived in Lagos. He had over 1 million followers on social media. He made videos by mocking people on the street. People laughed at his jokes and he liked the attention. One hot Saturday afternoon, Daniel went to the market in Yaba with his camera crew. He said he wanted to make a new funny video. He looked around for someone to use in the video. He saw an old man sitting by the roadside. The man had one leg and wore torn clothes. Daniel pointed at the old man and laughed. He walked up to him and began shouting fake prayers. He said, "Father Lord, deliver this man from suffering." His friends laughed and recorded him. People in the market stopped to watch. The old man did not say anything. He just looked at Daniel with tired eyes. His face showed no emotion. He held a wooden bowl for begging and had a walking stick beside him. His clothes were dirty and he had no shoes. Daniel knelt next to the old man and started pretending to cry. He shouted, "Oh Lord, help this man walk again." The crowd laughed. Some people brought out their phones and recorded everything. After a while the old man spoke. He said quietly, "Young man, you should be careful." Daniel laughed and replied, "You should be happy I made you famous today." The old man looked away and said nothing else. The video went viral the next day. It had over 3 million views. Daniel's followers praised him for being funny. Some people, however, commented that it was wrong to mock the old man. Daniel ignored the negative comments. That night, Daniel celebrated with his friends. They played loud music and drank. He laughed at the old man again and joked that he would find more funny beggars to use in future videos. Daniel went to sleep late. His phone was still playing the video when he dozed off. He dreamed of the market. In the dream, the old man was standing on 2 legs and watching him. Daniel tried to run but he could not move. The next morning, Daniel woke up and stretched. He opened his mouth to speak but no sound came out. He tried again but still nothing. His voice was gone. Daniel sat up in bed and touched his throat. He opened his mouth again and tried to speak, but there was still no sound. He panicked. He ran to the mirror and looked at himself. He looked fine but he could not talk. He grabbed his phone and tried to call his best friend, Toby. When Toby answered, Daniel tried to speak but only air came out. Toby thought it was a prank and laughed. Daniel typed a message and sent it. It said, "I cannot talk." Toby rushed over to Daniel's house. He found Daniel sitting on the floor and pointing to his throat. Toby told him to calm down. He helped Daniel dress up and took him to the hospital immediately. At the hospital, the doctor asked Daniel some questions. Daniel typed on his phone to reply. The doctor ran tests and checked his throat. After 1 hour, the doctor came back and said there was nothing physically wrong. The doctor told Toby, his throat is not damaged. His voice box is okay. There is no reason he should not be talking. Toby asked what they could do. The doctor said they could refer him to a specialist. Daniel saw a second doctor the next day. That doctor did more tests. The results were the same. No infection, no injury, no damage. The doctor said it might be psychological or spiritual. Toby told Daniel to see a pastor. He believed prayer could help. They went to a popular church in Surulere. The pastor prayed for Daniel and poured anointing oil on his head. Nothing happened. The pastor asked Daniel if he had offended anyone. Daniel shook his head. The pastor said, "There is a reason for every attack. You must think deeply." Daniel could not sleep that night. He sat on his bed and replayed the video in his head. He remembered the old man's face. He remembered the words, "You should be careful." He began to feel cold even though the fan was off. The next morning, Daniel tried again to speak. Still no sound. He looked in the mirror and saw his eyes were red. He typed on his phone, "I need help. I think the old man did something." Daniel told Toby he wanted to return to the market. He wanted to find the old man he mocked. He believed the old man might be the reason he lost his voice. Toby agreed to go with him. They arrived at the Yaba market in the afternoon. Daniel walked through the same area where he recorded the video. He looked at every corner and every roadside spot. The old man was not there. Daniel showed a photo of the old man taken from the viral video to some traders. Most of them shook their heads. One woman said, "That man doesn't stay in one place. Sometimes he comes, sometimes he disappears." Another man who sold bananas said, "I saw him once last week. But nobody knows where he lives. People say he sleeps under the bridge sometimes." Daniel and Toby went to the nearest bridge and asked around. Some people said they had seen the old man before, but he hadn't come around in days. Others said he wasn't a normal person. One elderly woman under the bridge said, "That man you are looking for is not ordinary. People have mocked him before and bad things happened to them." She told Daniel to be careful. Daniel tried to ask more questions by typing on his phone, but the woman refused to say more. She walked away and crossed herself. Toby began to feel uneasy and told Daniel they should leave. As they walked away, a man sitting on the ground called out to them. He said he knew someone who might help them find the beggar. He pointed them to a herbalist who stayed in a wooden house near a railway line. Daniel and Toby followed the directions and found the herbalist. The man was old and had white hair. He looked at Daniel and said, "I have been expecting you. Sit down." The herbalist told them that the beggar was not a normal man. He was a messenger of the spirits. He said Daniel had insulted someone sent by the ancestors. He warned that if Daniel did not make things right, his voice would never return, and worse things could follow. The herbalist looked at Daniel and said, "You cannot fight this with medicine or prayer alone. You touched something older than you. You mocked a spirit in human form." Daniel sat quietly and listened, typing short replies on his phone. Toby asked, "So what do we do now?" The herbalist said Daniel must find the beggar and beg him for forgiveness. If the beggar accepts, his voice may return. If not, the silence will remain forever. Daniel typed, "I can't find him. We searched everywhere." The herbalist nodded slowly and said, "He doesn't stay in one place. He moves where the spirits send him. But I can help you dream his location." The herbalist gave Daniel a black soap to use for his bath and a bitter drink to take before sleeping. He told Daniel to sleep in silence, alone, and not to look at his phone or any light until morning. That night, Daniel followed the instructions. He bathed with the soap and drank the bitter liquid. He turned off the light, dropped his phone and lay on his bed. Slowly he closed his eyes and slept. In his dream, Daniel stood in a dark forest. He could hear water dripping and birds calling. In front of him was the old man, now standing tall and dressed in white. The man pointed to a path. Daniel followed the path. He saw people crying, laughing, shouting, and begging. It felt like he was walking through all the lives he had made fun of in his videos. The last face he saw was the beggar's again. The beggar said in the dream, "You did not only insult me. You insulted those who walk with me. They do not forgive easily. If you want your voice back, go to the place where your name was first called." Daniel woke up sweating. He told Toby what he saw by typing it all out. They didn't understand the meaning of the place where your name was first called, so they returned to the herbalist the next day. The herbalist listened and said, "That means your home. Where you were born. Where your umbilical cord was buried. That's where you must go first, and the journey must be done with a clean heart. No camera, no noise." Daniel and Toby packed a small bag and traveled to Daniel's village in Ogun State. It was the place where Daniel was born before his family moved to Lagos. Daniel had not been there since he was a child. When they arrived, Daniel's grandmother welcomed them. She was surprised to see him but noticed something was wrong. Daniel typed on his phone and explained that he had lost his voice and needed to find where his name was first called. The grandmother took them behind the house to a small tree. She said, "This is where we buried your umbilical cord when you were born. This is your beginning." Daniel stood by the tree and bowed his head. His grandmother poured water on the ground and said a short prayer. She asked the land to remember Daniel and forgive him for whatever he had done to offend the spirits. She told him to touch the soil and stay quiet. Daniel knelt beside the tree. He placed both hands on the soil and closed his eyes. He stayed that way for 10 minutes. He felt cold wind touch his back even though the weather was hot. He opened his eyes slowly. He typed on his phone and showed it to his grandmother. It said, "What should I do next?" She replied, "Now you must find the beggar again. But not with your feet. Let your spirit call him." That night, Daniel slept inside his grandmother's hut. There were no fans or phones. The room was quiet and dark. He fell asleep quickly and dreamed again. This time he saw himself at the Yaba market. In the dream, the beggar sat alone in the same place where Daniel had mocked him. The man looked tired and sad. Daniel walked to him and knelt in front of him. He tried to speak but still no voice came out. The beggar looked up and said, "You are not ready. You still see me as a man. But I am not only a man." Daniel felt afraid. He typed on his phone, "Please help me." The beggar shook his head. The next morning, Daniel woke up and told Toby everything using his phone. They both sat outside the hut, confused. Daniel typed, "How can I make him see that I am truly sorry?" Toby said, "Maybe you must give something valuable. Something that shows you are no longer proud." Daniel and Toby returned to Lagos the next day. Daniel brought back a small bag from the village. Inside it were items his grandmother gave him: white cloth, kola nuts, and a small wooden carving of a hand. Daniel decided not to post on social media again. He deleted all the videos where he had mocked people, including the one with the beggar. He also made a post with only text that said, "I am sorry for the pain I caused." Toby helped Daniel look for the beggar again. This time they didn't use a camera or ask loudly. They just walked through the market, watched closely and waited in silence. After 3 days they saw him. The old man was sitting near a corner, far from where they had last seen him. He looked exactly the same, one leg, worn clothes, quiet face. People passed him by without looking. Daniel walked slowly to the old man and knelt. He placed the white cloth on the ground and opened the bag. He took out the kola nuts and the carving and placed them in front of the beggar. The beggar looked at Daniel but said nothing. Daniel typed on his phone, "I mocked you. I did wrong. I understand now. I have nothing to offer but my shame and these items from my grandmother." The beggar looked at the kola nuts. He picked one up, cracked it and chewed slowly. He said, "Now you speak without a voice. Now you bow without cameras. Are you ready to carry the weight of what you mocked?" Daniel nodded. The beggar said, "You have started well. But this is not the end. You must visit the river. The one near the old shrine. Go alone. Enter the water and speak from your soul." Toby asked if he could go with Daniel, but the beggar said no. He must go alone. The river hears only truth. If he lies, he will drown. If he is honest, he will rise again. That night, Daniel sat in his room. He held the wooden carving and stared at it. He typed, "This is more than losing my voice. This is about who I became. I must face the river. Even if I'm afraid." Daniel woke up early the next morning. He packed only the white cloth, the wooden hand carving and a bottle of clean water. He took a bike to the outskirts of Lagos, near an abandoned river shrine people no longer visited. The area was quiet. The river was wide and slow. Tall grass surrounded the bank and a few broken statues stood near the water. Daniel stood still for a moment and looked around. There was no one else in sight. He walked to the riverbank and placed the white cloth on the ground. He removed his shoes and stepped into the shallow water. It felt cold. He knelt and held the wooden carving in both hands. Daniel closed his eyes and thought about everything he had done, every person he mocked, every insult he made for views, every laugh that came from someone else's pain. His heart felt heavy. He typed his message on his phone before entering deeper into the water. "I was proud. I was foolish. I disrespected people. I disrespected spirits. I want to change. I am sorry." Daniel placed the wooden carving on the surface of the water. It floated for a moment, then slowly sank. He stayed kneeling in the water, waiting. He could hear birds and wind, but no voice replied. Then the water around him started to ripple. A slow wave moved toward him from the center of the river, though nothing had disturbed it. He looked up and saw no one, but the air felt heavier. Daniel heard a soft sound in his ears, not a voice but a strong feeling inside. It told him, "You have bent your pride. Your tongue is tied by your own actions. You must now carry silence until your heart is fully clean." He opened his eyes and stood up slowly. The water was calm again. He stepped out of the river, picked up the wet white cloth and left the place without speaking. The carving was gone. That night, Daniel sat in silence. He didn't try to speak. He didn't panic. He typed on his phone, "The river accepted me. I will be silent until my soul is ready. I am no longer afraid." Days passed. Daniel did not get his voice back. He stopped looking for healing. He stopped asking questions. Instead, he began to change his life. He started helping people without recording it. Daniel used his savings to buy food and clothes for people on the street. He gave them quietly without telling them who he was. Some remembered him from the video, but he only bowed his head and moved on. He visited a center for disabled people and offered to support their needs. He paid for wheelchairs, clothes, and food. He did not speak or record anything. He simply sat and listened to them. One day, a man at the center asked him, "Why don't you speak?" Daniel typed, "I said too much before. Now I'm learning how to hear." The man nodded and smiled. Sometimes silence is more powerful than noise. Daniel's social media account became quiet. He no longer posted funny videos. People started to ask what happened to him. Some assumed he was sick. Others said he was no longer popular. He didn't reply. One afternoon he visited a school and donated books. The principal asked him to give a short speech. Daniel wrote on a board instead, "Do not laugh at pain. Respect everyone, even when no one is watching." The children clapped. The teachers looked at him with respect. No one mocked his silence. Some even cried. He bowed and left. That night, he sat by his window and smiled for the first time in many weeks. Toby noticed the change in Daniel. He said, "You're not the same person anymore." Daniel typed, "I feel lighter. I feel real." Toby nodded and said, "Maybe this is the real healing." A week later, Daniel had a dream again. He was standing in the middle of the river. The old man stood on the bank watching him. Daniel bowed his head. The old man said, "You have carried silence well." Daniel woke up slowly. He sat up and took a deep breath. He whispered, "Thank you." His voice was soft but clear. He covered his mouth in shock. He said it again, "Thank you." His voice had returned. Daniel was shocked that his voice had returned after many weeks of silence. He tested it by speaking simple words softly. Each time the sound came clearer and stronger. He smiled, feeling relief and hope. He called Toby and told him the news. When Toby came over, Daniel spoke to him normally for the first time. Toby was happy and said, "I missed hearing your voice." Daniel decided to change how he used his voice. He wanted to be careful with his words. He knew that words could hurt people and he wanted to use his voice to help others, not mock them. He posted a new video on social media. This time it was different. He spoke about respect, kindness, and understanding. He told his followers about his experience and the lessons he learned. Many people commented that they were proud of him. Some said they had also made mistakes and wanted to be better. Daniel felt a new purpose in his life. He wanted to make a positive difference. Daniel met the old man at the market again. The man smiled and nodded at him. Daniel bowed his head and said, "Thank you." The old man did not reply but walked away quietly. Daniel's followers noticed he had changed. He no longer made videos that hurt people. Instead, he shared stories about hope and respect. His follower count grew, but this time for the right reasons. He still remembered the silence he carried and the lessons of the river. Daniel kept the wooden carving on his desk as a reminder of his journey and the price of pride. He visited his grandmother again and thanked her for her help. She smiled and said, "You have grown." Remember, respect and humility keep the voice strong. Daniel's life was different now. He used his voice wisely. He respected everyone he met. The silence had taught him the most important lesson of all. Months later, Daniel was no longer the man who mocked others for fun. He had become a humble person who understood the power of words and respect. His new videos inspired people to be kind. One morning, Daniel went back to the market to meet the people he had once mocked. He apologized to those he could find. Many forgave him. Some smiled quietly. A few nodded with respect. Daniel helped organize a small community event to raise money for people with disabilities. He used his social media to bring attention to their needs without using their stories for entertainment. The old man was there at the event. Daniel approached him and gave him a gift, a new walking stick made by a local craftsman. The old man accepted it without speaking. The market felt different that day. People talked about Daniel's change. They said he had become a better man because he learned from his mistake and did not forget it. Daniel kept visiting his grandmother and the herbalist for advice. He learned more about his culture and the spirits. He respected the traditions that once seemed strange to him. Toby remained Daniel's closest friend. They talked openly about life, respect, and the power of silence. Toby said, "You are lucky to have your voice back, but even luck is earned." Daniel knew his story was not just about losing his voice. It was about losing pride, gaining respect, and understanding his place in the world. He planned to share his story on YouTube, not for fame or likes but to teach others about humility and respect. He wanted to help people avoid the same mistake. Daniel smiled as he typed the final words of his new video. "Respect every person, every spirit, every story. Your words have power. Use them wisely." The video went live and Daniel felt peace.
The end.
Thank you for watching the video to the end. If you find this video interesting, do well to hit the subscription button and don't forget to turn on the notification bell for new stories.